To get it on tape so we can save it for posterity. You got any questions about when I was a young man?
Your dad was a young man. He looked just like Joshua. His
Joshua,
hair was curly.
beautiful
And
child.
he had sores all over his body. He looked like he'd been through a wringer. I used to think, I wonder if he'll ever be able to marry and have children. Poor little kid. He's got 7 of them. And little Alma that's gone over to the other side counts at the 8. You know, we have been a very lucky family to have only lost Alma, you know, with this many kids, haven't we?
Yes, we have. We've been blessed.
You look at the history of the church, look at the number of children Joseph Smith's wife lost, look at all of the early pioneers. They just lost so many children as they crossed the plains.
Can you tell us a little bit about your dad and mom?
Oh, I wish you could know my dad and mother.
What was their name?
My dad was John Albert Johansen. He was the son of Peter Johansen and Christine Christensen Johansen. My mother was Nellie Johansen. And Mother always was a born lady. And she was stuck out on that farm where she couldn't get any place, and she didn't have things very nice and didn't have electricity, but she was a hostess with a hostess. She could cook a turkey like nobody you ever saw, and we raised all sorts of vegetables and garden stuff, and she was a great hostess. She made everybody feel so welcome. But something you kids would have never heard anything about is the Great Depression. Now that hit in 1929, and it really didn't get over until the early 40s. But it was an economic disaster when everybody lost their jobs, when the distribution of produce was very difficult, like nobody had money to buy the farmers' stuff, so the farmers couldn't sell it. They couldn't buy gas, so they were out of work. It was terrible. And we lived out on the farm then, and everybody had to put their cars up because nobody had money to buy gas or to buy license for their car. Many people fixed their cars so that they could ride in their car and have them pulled by a team of horses. And they called them the Bennett buggies. And
what?
Bennett buggies. And all of the ailments of those years was blamed on Prime Minister Bennett. We thought that he was the culprit that brought all of this on. But we raised so much food and we couldn't sell it. And so we would give turkeys and eggs and milk and butter and this stuff away. And during this time, there were many families who had lost their homes. They didn't have any place to live. They didn't have any food. There wasn't any welfare system. There was no place for them to turn if they didn't have a friend to turn to. During those years, 6 full families came and lived in our home. We lived in a great big farm home. We had a lot of land, we had a lot of milk, a lot of eggs, a lot of meat, and we could feed them. But the Cheney family came. They had 6 daughters, and we enjoyed them. They were beautiful, lovely people. There was the Horace family, there were many people that just came in and moved in with us. And we sort of accepted that that was the way life was. And when somebody would move in with us, oh, the Petersons moved in with us. But we just move over and put more people in the beds and put more lunches up when the kids would go to school. Everybody would ride to school. But Dad would always try to find them a place that they could go and that they have a place to live as fast as he could. There was a dear old lady who called her Mother Reed. She and her husband came from England. They had no place to go, and they came to live with us. And she sort of was like the grandmother to us all the years we were growing up. Lovely, lovely old lady. And maybe you'd be interested in knowing about when Bill and I went in to have our patriarchal blessing. After we'd each had our blessing, we had our blessing in the Canadian temple. Then the patriarch, Anderson, said to her, and Sister Reed, I have a blessing for you. And she said, oh, Patriarch Anderson, I have had my blessing. He said, but I have another one for you. So he put his hands on her head, and he promised her that she would yet have a mate for time and eternity. She was 75 years old. Her husband had never joined the church. And he said, you'll yet have a mate for time and eternity. And you will yet see Zion. She always wanted to see Utah. And you will be provided for in a way that is simply unbelievable. And we went home and told Mother and Dad about this. And Mother shook her head and she said, why? Telling a woman 75 years old she'll yet have a mate for time and eternity. That's ridiculous. Well, but they decided that they could help her to get to see Zion. So they took her down to Utah at October conference. And just as they were walking onto Temple Square, Dad met his brother-in-law. Dad's sister had been dead for 14 years, and he met her husband, Brother Rasmussen, Uncle Chris Rasmussen. And they met, and it was love at first sight, and they were married within a month. She was provided for in a manner unbelievable. She did have a mate for time and eternity, and she did yet see Zion. That's all I got to say tonight. Turn it off.
Hey, Dad.
Hey.
Dad. Did he go upstairs?
Ray, you're just sleeping.